So that was absolutely incredible, having the Queen walking into the room for the first time at Buckingham Palace. I mean, there are no words to describe it. And I was very, very, very nervous. And I knew all the protocol, but she walked in very, very quickly, very calmly, and I curtsied, but she didn't see that. But then she went to sit down on this very beautiful chair that had been set up in the middle of the room for her, which was on a raised dais. And she just carried on talking, but her male secretary was in the room, standing on by the side, and he was watching while I was measuring the Queen's bust with calipers, because I had to go backwards and forwards and measure. That's how to get the bust to look realistic. And he was there to make sure I wasn't going to do anything dangerous. That carried on for maybe 15 minutes. And then what happened was he sort of left the room, and he must have felt that it was time he could go. And I just decided I was going to listen to the Queen more and not worry too much about the measuring, because I was too nervous. When I was with the Queen, the first sitting, she talked quite a lot, and she was very, very concerned about the people walking outside the palace. There were so many people. And when I did that in those days, there was a road all the way around the middle statue of Queen Victoria. And she was very worried that somebody would get run over, because nobody seemed to be looking where they're going. So she talked about that quite a lot. And then she chatted about a journey she was making the next day or that week. She was going up north on a train. And she talked about lots and lots of things about visitors that come to the palace, where they stay in the palace. And the hour went very quickly. I had 3 sittings with the Queen to complete the bust. And the first 2 sittings, I would say I was so nervous, it was just too ridiculous, But by the 3rd sitting, I felt more comfortable, really. I had devised a way of asking her, without asking her outright how she liked the sculpture, but I talked about her hair, if she'd like to have it shorter. And she said, yes, maybe just a little bit. And so I chopped off some of the clay until she said, that's fine. And then the last question was, are you happy for this to go to my studio now? And then to the foundry. And she said, yes, and don't fiddle with it when you get it back. So that finger, I've said this so many times, but that was such a fabulous thing, because she really loved it, I finished sculpting the Duke of Edinburgh in the year 2000. And I had 4 sittings for the Duke of Edinburgh. That was my first royal. So obviously my first sitting was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever experienced. But actually after 4 sittings, again, I felt comfortable with him. And he really loved the bust, very much so, that he chose it to go to Windsor Castle for his 90th birthday. And that bust is in the palace. And when I went to visit the Queen for my first sitting, I took along a photograph of the Duke of Edinburgh's bust to show her. And I actually said to her, would you like to see this bust, Mum? And she said, oh, that's, very, very interesting. Where is that? So I said, it's in the palace. And she said, well, I haven't seen that. She said, I must go and see that. Where is it? So I said, it's just, in the entrance where all the visitors come in, the guests. And so she said, I'm going to go and see it. So this was on the 3rd sitting. And after this, Jack and myself, my husband and myself, were asked to go to a charity event at the palace. And it was one of these events where the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh walked around the room and talked to everybody. It was very, very lovely. And she came up to me and she immediately went, I haven't been yet, but I am going, I promise you. So, that was amazing, because there must be 100 people in the room. Well, before I sculpted the Queen, I went to the palace to see the room and Angela Kelly, who was her lady-in-waiting, and I was able to choose the tiara and the jewellery, which was so incredible. So the first bust was going to be unveiled by Her Majesty the Queen for the Scouts at Baden Power House. And she came to the unveiling. It was the most incredible, amazing event, really amazing. They closed all the streets off and it was fantastic. And then I said to her, would she like to have one in the palace next to the Duke of Edinburgh? And she said, that would be very, very nice. That would be nice, you know. And she said, looking at the photograph, maybe I was showing her then, I can't remember exactly, but she said, but I wouldn't want the tiara on next to the Duke of Edinburgh, as he's got just a shirt and tie, so I wouldn't want my tiara, and I would want us to be the same. And I thought that was very lovely, you know, that she was so caring, obviously loved him very, very much, and those two are there in the palace together like that, and all the others have the tiara on. This is quite unusual. I was 14 years old and I was at school. Art was my best subject. I slept through all the other subjects, so this was it. And one day they said, would we do sketches of Roman buildings? And I picked this out of a book and I started doing this in charcoal. And the amazing thing was the feeling that I got when I was doing it. I had this unbelievable feeling that, makes me quite emotional, really quite strange, because I know now that's how it happened. I had to do sculpture from then because I felt as though I was sculpting this as I was drawing it. And that's where that's when it began. That's actually where it began. And it's been an obsession. I mean, you can see I must have done over 500 pieces. So it's been an extraordinary journey. The sketch of the Queen, Her Majesty the Queen, I started sketching while I was sculpting her. And I just felt, you know, that I had so many odd sketches, just a nose or an eye or a cheek. And I just felt like doing the whole face. That was in around 2008. These sketches of the Duke of Edinburgh, I sketched these in the year 1999 to 2000, and I did quite a few drawings, preparatory drawings, before I did the sculpture. I felt, you know, the more I do, the more easy it's going to be for me when I'm in the room on the first time. It's wonderful to be collaborating with the Grove Gallery. I'm so excited that we're doing this exhibition on the 3 royals. And this is just an amazing thing to have all these stories together, to be documented, and for the public to be able to go and see it.